Hello, and welcome to the new Spirit of Equess, the latest bus design from ARBOC Specialty Vehicles. Equess, the name of the new product, is a contraction of the words equal and access, and reflects ARBOC's commitment to the paratransit community and equal access for all customers. The Spirit of Equess is a rural transit bus. Rural transit indicates that it's for use between small towns and larger cities on arterial or commuter routes, in addition to its ability to be used in shuttle and urban transit duty cycles. The Spirit of Equess is a medium-duty bus that encompasses heavy-duty bus technologies and design theory. It's medium-duty. It's designed for a 10-year, 350,000-mile service life, and incorporates features commonly found on smaller vehicles rather than full-size transit buses. The Spirit of Equess is designed as a medium-duty bus using heavy-duty bus technologies and design methodologies. It's medium-duty because it's a smaller, more compact design intended to serve smaller, narrower roads and communities where the impact of a large diesel bus would not be appreciated. The Spirit of Equess is designed as a 10-year, 350,000-mile bus, rather than a full 12-year heavy-heavy. Being 10-year and 350,000 miles, ARBOC is able to make it much more affordable and accessible to a larger range of operators and fleets. The vehicle is only 101 inches wide, and similarly, it's 101 inches tall, a perfect square at the front, with an extremely low height relative to larger buses. The air conditioning adds only an additional 10 inches on the roof of the bus. The vehicle is available in 29, 32, and 35-foot lengths, with wheelbases of 191, 220, and 254 inches. The Spirit of Equess is a new approach to medium-duty bus design. In conceiving the Spirit of Equess, ARBOC approached this in a new way. Rather than build a body on frame rails, as is typical in the medium-duty segment, ARBOC has designed the Spirit of Equess as a semi-monocoque body construction. ARBOC has adapted its traditional methods of wall and roof attachment that is used throughout its product line to a new, fully flat, low-floor chassis. By combining the chassis with the body and roof, ARBOC creates a unitized structural element, a box, that resists twisting and bending much better than a traditional vehicle on two frame rails. This has also allowed ARBOC to redesign the floor and decrease the height of the floor rails and segments. On the Spirit of Equess, the interior floor maintains a constant 14 inches off of the road surface from front all the way to the rear bench. Outside, nearly 11 inches of underbody ground clearance is maintained by using a very short height floor segment. The Spirit of Equess, as I said, maintains 14 inches constant throughout the floor. At the front step entrance, the height is even lower. Step up from the street is 13 3/8 inches, and when kneeled, the bus sinks to 10 3/8 inches at the front door. This allows for a wheelchair ramp that greatly exceeds the 1 in 6 requirements and has a very smooth entry and transition to the vehicle. In constructing the Spirit of Equess, ARBOC adapted its traditional build methodologies for the sidewalls and roof, but it used a number of new innovations to attach the elements and make it a single structural unit. Throughout the base chassis, there are several main elements over the front, rear, and midsection of the vehicle that are joined together with a permanent locking threaded fastener called a huck bolt. We'll talk about this a little bit more later when we're under the vehicle. To join the sidewalls and roof, ARBOC started with its standard bolt and bond construction. However, the vehicle incorporates more than 200 high-strength structural rivets throughout, joining the chassis to the sidewall and the sidewall to the roof through additional reinforcing gussets. The vehicle has been designed with a full Florida DOT rollover test in mind and has already been side impacted for compliance with all side impact guidelines for large vehicles. Inside, the Spirit of Equess maintains a fully flat low floor from front to rear. It's been designed this way. There's no rise over the front axle. There's no rise as you reach the rear of the bus. In the longer 35-foot version, equipped with double doors, the front and rear entry step heights are identical. The rear axle is located behind the last row of seats due to the unique architecture of the bus. The last row of seats sits directly over the rear axle. The fuel tank and all other items typically below the floor on a regular rail bus are located after the firewall for the safety of passengers. The floor structure is gusseted into the sidewalls with reinforcing structural brackets that use those high-strength riveted fasteners I told you about. This allows every bus to have sidewall coving up to the seat track. Similarly, behind the overheads are triangulated gussets tying the roof structure into the sidewall at each and every window pillar, providing additional strength and resistance in the event of an unfortunate rollover or other accident. This particular Equess is equipped with a quantum system from Q-Straint, and as with all ARBOC products, the Spirit of Equess can be outfitted with whatever options or seating plans you desire. The Spirit of Equess in standard configuration is equipped with dual ACC mini-sphere units from Spheros. This particular bus is equipped with a free blow system and 2 units in midships. Can also be equipped with an optional ducted system using an ARBOC ducted cove on each side. Emergency egress is indicated throughout at certain window positions, and the standard rear hatches directly above the rear platform. On 35-foot versions, a second hatch can be placed over the front wheel wells. The Spirit of Equess is equipped standard with inward-facing seats on both wheel wells and has been designed to maintain these seats as low as possible. The width between the front wheels, due to the ZF independent front suspension used, is an extremely generous 36 inches, more than adequate for all ADA clearance issues. An optional radio cabinet can be packaged on the street side wheel well, right behind the driver, in place of or in addition to the driver's modesty panel. Wheelchair entry is smooth and unbroken, with clearance past the driver's platform. Kneeling the bus lowers the front corner of the bus to 10 3/8 inch step entry. And the standard Braun bifold ramp is used for access by disabled passengers. Entry to the vehicle approaches 1 in 8 rather than the 1 in 6 that's standard now in the industry. From the beginning, and in consultation with ARBOC's partners and friends who advised the Equess program, the Spirit of Equess has been designed with driver comfort, visibility, and ergonomics in mind. From the beginning, the driver's platform was centered around the visibility of the driver to the front and sides of the vehicle. Extremely thin for its class, the A-pillars afford a generous view of the mirrors and the sides of the vehicle, and a single piece wrapped front windscreen is used that incorporates the destination sign as well under a single pane at a very affordable cost of replacement. The driver's field of view and visibility exceed all SAE standards for medium and heavy duty vehicles, all White Book standards, and all FMVSS guidelines. An extremely generous downward view is combined with an upward view above 20% or 20 degrees from the eye line, and is compatible with all driver sizes from 5 to 95 percentile. The steering column features tilt telescoping incorporated and has a wraparound dash display, so all switches and indicators are easily visible and readily familiar to the operator. The side console incorporates shift, parking brake, and other standard features like cruise control and engine VGT braking. Standard options in the driver's area include a standard butterfly design integrated wiper system from Wexco, and Hadley 9x13 mirrors are incorporated on the Equess as standard offering. They have been specially customized to fit with the Equess design and mount on the very low roofline of the Spirit of Equess. A variety of destination signs are available, up to a 160 point width sign, including, and side signs and rear signs are also available as optioned. The Spirit of Equess is a medium-duty, low-floor bus, but it's designed with heavy-duty bus technologies. The bus incorporates 19.5-inch tires on standard axles that are sized to exceed the load capability of the tires. Thus, the maximum weight rating of the vehicle is based upon the tire rating themselves. One of the key design features of Equess, in keeping with this concept of a smaller, lower impact bus, was to dramatically shorten the rear overhang from the rear axle to the back bumper of the bus. The goal here was simple: to increase the passenger capacity between the wheels, where the smoothest ride is, as much as possible, and to decrease the impact of tail swing of the bus as it's maneuvered through small, narrow neighborhoods and streets. In comparison to other vehicles in this class, we've reduced the rear overhang of the bus from more than 10 feet on a comparable vehicle to less than 6.5 feet from the center of the wheel to the rear bumper. To do this, we employed some dramatic new technologies that should be familiar to those who've been in the bus industry for decades. How does ARBOC achieve such a short rear overhang in a rear engine bus? ARBOC went back to the drawing board and designed a rear powertrain module that attaches just after the rear axle and incorporates engine, transmission, and a unique patent-pending angle drive. In order to achieve the short overhang, ARBOC has incorporated a transverse-mounted engine and used E-fan technologies for cooling of the vehicle. By incorporating a V-drive, a technology well known in the bus industry, but not in common use today, ARBOC has been able to mount the powertrain transverse, taking a dramatic amount of length out of the vehicle. Being a medium-duty bus, ARBOC's been able to use the new B6.7 engine from Cummins, the 2018 emissions version of the traditional ISB. Rated at 220 horsepower and 520 foot-pounds of torque, the engine is more than adequate to move the Equess's 25,990 maximum GVWR. It's coupled with an Allison B220 transmission, a unit familiar to those in the medium-duty bus space. Under the battery box here, you'll find ARBOC's patent-pending angle drive, developed specifically for the Spirit of Equess and proprietary to ARBOC. Inside the engine compartment, the powertrain skid has been designed for ease of maintenance, service, and accessibility. The starter, alternator, and the driver's air conditioning compressor are easily accessed on this side. The vehicle features E-fan technology. Radiator and charge air cooler are located high on the vehicle and out of the way of the front of the engine. Electric fans on these modules are regulated according to engine temperature and a number of other parameters to allow for a very efficient, automatic, and reliable cooling without waste of energy or the concerns associated with either hydraulic or mechanic or belt drive fan systems. The 2018 Cummins engines use a single canister diesel aftertreatment system that's incorporated vertically in the Spirit of Equess, again to maintain space and to cut down on the overall running length of the exhaust of the vehicle. All exhaust on the Spirit of Equess exit standard rooftop street side. Another exciting feature about the Spirit of Equess is that it is available in both the diesel 6.7 engine and Cummins 2018 B6.7N natural gas version. The same vehicle can be equipped with either diesel or CNG powertrains, and the actual selection of powertrain for a chassis is not made until the engine skid is installed on ARBOC's line. This gives customers and end users flexibility in choosing what fuel type they might want on a given order, and even the option of mixing diesel and CNG in a given build. The powertrain skids for both engines are nearly identical in all respects, with small changes to the after-treatment and fuel delivery systems only. Upcoming in the next year or two, ARBOC will also offer an electric version of the Equess, again using the same powertrain skid, but clearly packaged with batteries rather than traditional combustion engines. The unique powertrain skid design of the Spirit of Equess really affords a great deal of benefits, both in the build process and afterwards for continued service throughout the 10-year life of the vehicle. ARBOC assembles all the elements of the powertrain skid, a very large fraction of the overall bill of materials for the vehicle, in a unitized steel frame box that attaches just behind the door seat on every Equess bus. In this way, the chassis, sidewalls, roof, front and rear firewalls, front cap can all be assembled online separate from the powertrain. And the powertrain module, including the engine, transmission, V-drive, radiators, air intake system, hydraulic system, air dryer, batteries, and other elements can all be assembled off the vehicle in a separate area on a powertrain skid that can be accessed from all sides during the assembly process. The skid incorporates the engine facing the curved side with the charge air cooler located directly above it to minimize the length of air intake pipe and potential heating. The air filter is easily accessible from the side, right here at eye level, as well as your oil check, your belt face, your passenger air conditioning compressor, your alternator, your driver's air conditioning compressor, and other features on the front of the engine. On this side, the turbocharger is right in front, along with one of the fuel canisters, and the starter is easily available for changing. A unique feature of the Equess is that the engine and transmission, if required, to be changed or removed for service. This can be accomplished in one of two ways. The entire powertrain skid of the vehicle could physically be removed from the vehicle for maintenance. This would require simply removing the doors and outer cowling and removing a series of 16 permanent fasteners holding the engine skid to the rear chassis deck. Also, a series of smaller bolts around the perimeter, including clevis joints between the roof and the engine skid, have to be removed. But at that point, the entire assembly can be brought off of the vehicle with a forklift. Alternately, the engine and transmission assembly, including the V-drive, can be removed on a subframe. By removing these two doors and this corner cowling here with a few fasteners, the maintenance team can access a series of bolted joints. Here, here, and right here behind the bumper. By taking out between 16 and 20 bolts, the entire rear corner of the bus can be rolled back with the engine, transmission, and V-drive intact and worked on freely, separate from the engine skid. This affords a great deal of time saving in the event that a powertrain service or swap is required at some point in the life of the vehicle. The Spirit of Equess has a 12-volt electrical system standard, typical of all ARBOC products. The main batteries are easily accessible from the rear compartment with a removable cover if access is needed to the terminals. The vehicle master switch is also conveniently located behind the rear door, and a fill port is provided for the pneumatic system of the bus. Here is a rear run and fuse box. It incorporates a compartment light switch, a front and rear run switch, and a rear start switch, along with a OBD2 diagnostic port. Access to fuses and relays that service the rear of the vehicle is made inside the sealed box, which includes a rear multiplexing module, fuses for all rear elements of the vehicle, including rear lights, engine, transmission, and the powertrain fusing, relays associated with the engine and transmission, and ample expansion space for grounded power and ignition circuits for optional accessories that may be added later. Also accessible over the transmission, your transmission fluid, your power steering tank, your water and fuel water separator, your fuel filter, and your high current circuit breakers for front electrical panel, rear electrical panel, engine, E-fan radiator, E-fan charge air cooler, and your front and rear driver and passenger air conditioning. On the Spirit of Equess, fuel has been designated in a reserved area directly above the rear axle and between the passenger firewall and the engine skid. This protected zone holds an 82-gallon diesel fuel tank with 77-gallon capacity, or a 77-gallon diesel gallon equivalent CNG system with 2 stacked tanks. The diesel Equess features standard fill, both left and right, over the rear axle. The CNG version has a single CNG fill port on the curb side, including a shutoff valve and a defueling port, and an NGV2 standard fast fill connector. Behind the street side access door is the standard E-fan system and the DEF tank. The diesel version of the Equess has a 4-fan E-fan setup designed and built by Grayson Systems and shipped from Franklin, Indiana for Buy America compliance. The CNG version of the engine skid uses a similar radiator with 5 fans to deal with the added heat load of the CNG engine. On the diesel version, the DEF tank is located right here behind the access door, as well as the supply doser module for the engine, for ease of access to both. At the front of the Equess, below the driver's side console platform, lies the heart of the electrical system. The front electrical panel, or FEP, contains the majority of the controls and fusing for the entire vehicle. A single power cable is run on a dedicated fuse from the rear, which is broken down into a fuse assembly that offers both battery and ignition switch circuits for all standard and optional accessories serving the front of the vehicle. The ignition solenoid lives here and is switched by the key switch. And the bus is controlled by an IO Controls multiplex system. We've worked closely with IO Controls to develop a new medium-duty application that involves a master and 2 separate slave systems, making this the first fully integrated multiplex system offered by ARBOC. This allows the vehicle to be split into 2 sections, an area served here and an area served on the powertrain skid. This is of great advantage to ARBOC when it comes to offering different lengths of vehicle and different types of powertrain. Because the multiplex system only requires 4 wires between the modules for communications, the length of the vehicle can be stretched with minimal changes to harnessing. In addition, it allows custom configurations of the activities in the powertrain very simply with a software-based interface. A communications port exists here for connecting to the IO Controls system, which many of your fleet customers will be very familiar with. In addition, in the same compartment, things like wiper control, ramp control, the ABS system, a Bendix 4S4M system with air discs at all 4 corners, and easy access to things like the shifter column, the parking brake valve, and all other elements of the vehicle. All harnesses are bulkhead connected into this enclosure, from the main trunk harness that runs the length of the vehicle through the roof, to the ramp harness, the front cap harness for all lighting on the front half of the vehicle, and a series of connectors directly to the instrument cluster, containing all your switch signals and your multiplex signals from the Amatec driver's display. The ARBOC Spirit of Equess is designed as a fully low-floor transit bus. In designing it, a semi-monocoque chassis structure was used to allow us to maintain a low floor throughout without large, tall frame rails that would keep the floor height elevated. This allowed us to put the chassis low to the ground to maintain an adequate clearance for specification, and also keep the floor at 14 inches above the street in normal ride height. Part of the way that this was achieved was through the use of innovative axle technologies. In developing the Spirit of Equess, ARBOC went to ZF for their latest axle technologies as used on transit buses in Europe. The RL55EC is the axle used by ARBOC in the Equess. It is a IFS axle design, or independent front suspension, that allows the left and right wheels to articulate independent of one another to provide a smoother, more comfortable ride. The RL55EC features a full air ride system with pneumatic airbags on both axles, which are integrated and engineered by ZF as a complete package along with the shock absorbers and supplied as a complete system to ARBOC. The axle assembly also incorporates steering and the supplied Ackerman arms to achieve even turn-in both directions. Together, the steering system of the RL55EC allows us more than 46 degrees of turn both left and right, and a turning radius for the bus that's within the overall length of the vehicle. Steering is controlled through a TRW steering box, a partner company now of ZF, and a Douglas column underneath the driver's platform. The RL55EC has the benefit of the flexible joints and wheel ends and hub assemblies that ZF uses in its larger 12-year transit buses, bus axles, but coupled with a smaller brake caliper and wheel, allowing a 19.5-inch tire. The RL55EC supplies Bendix air disc brakes at the front, and the axle at the rear has corresponding calipers and discs that provide an integrated Bendix air disc system at all four wheels. The Spirit of Equess has a semi-monocoque frame. As discussed, this means that the entire body and chassis act as a unitized unit to provide structural rigidity for the vehicle. You can see here the two frame tubes that come in to the rear axle area. The chassis itself under the vehicle is made up of three elements: a front element where the front axle is mounted, a mid-frame which can vary in length for 29, 32, and 35-foot versions, and a rear module here that contains the rear axle. The 5-across bench seat is placed on top of this module right at the rear of the bus. To join the three elements of the chassis together, rather than trying to maintain a long welded assembly, ARBOC has chosen to use a huck bolt fastener to tie those three elements together. This allows the same front and rear sections of the vehicle to be used on any length, and for the mid-frame to be varied depending on a customer's needs. The huck bolt is a unique fastener. Unlike a traditional bolt, once it's fastened, it stays fastened. The bolt has a corresponding collar that is joined, and then a hydraulic gripping gun is used to swage the collar onto the bolt permanently. Once the two elements are joined with a huck bolt, a special cutter wheel has to be used to remove the collar, or the bolt has to be cut off permanently. The benefit of the huck bolt assembly is that no amount of vibration or other applied forces on the bolt will cause it to loosen and separate, unlike a traditional bolt where there's a concern that torque may be lost after usage for a number of years or miles. At the rear axle assembly, ARBOC has again gone with ZF products. And again, this ZF technology has allowed us to achieve new and improved things with the Spirit of Equess. At the rear, ARBOC, again, is the first in the United States to apply ZF's AV110 portal axle. The AV110 is based on the same design as ZF's larger transit bus axles. However, it's paired with a smaller wheel end and brake assembly, again allowing the use of medium-duty 19.5-inch tires. The axle carries an extremely high load rating due to its very robust design for larger transit buses. In our application, it's limited to about 16,000 pounds, basically the limitations allowed by the tire assemblies. The axle design is a 4 pneumatic airbag suspension with an airbag in front and behind of the wheels on each side and a corresponding shock absorber, again engineered completely by ZF as an integrated package. The axle position is controlled by 4 control arms, 2 V-rods and 2 parallel rods that keep the axle square to the vehicle. The portal assembly of the axle and gearing is typically used in a low-floor bus where the rear floor must pass over the rear wheels. Due to the unique design of the Spirit of Equess, we place the entire passenger area between the 2 axles and thus do not have to pass through the center of the axle. However, we've taken advantage of the space to package our air tank assemblies above the axle. The portal axle also offers us a key benefit that's integral to the powertrain of the vehicle. The portal axle uses gear sets at the wheel hubs and an offset differential. In this case, our differential is offset all the way to the street side of the bus and it has a 7-degree angle towards the rear corner of the bus. This eliminates the differential from the center of the vehicle, you can see here, and allows us to do some very unique things with the powertrain. As always, the AV110 features Bendix air disc brakes, which correspond to the air brakes in the front, giving us a complete Bendix brake system throughout the vehicle. Similarly, Bendix control valves, ABS, and other elements are featured in the vehicle. The entire rear powertrain assembly, or skid assembly, similar to the central chassis, is attached with threaded fasteners. It can be assembled complete off the vehicle or at a separate site and brought to ARBOC as a complete running and tested element. The entire skid assembly is moved to the rear of the chassis and fastened onto the back of the chassis using a special threaded fastener, like a bolt, but different in that it is also designed to be vibration and tamper resistant, so that once applied, the fastener will stay locked without retorquing until such time that it might need to be removed. If a customer so desired, or if the need occurred for a repower, the entire rear skid assembly of the vehicle, complete with engine, transmission, V-drive, radiator, charge air cooler, air piping, cooling system accessories, air dryer, power steering tank and system, and numerous other accessories, can be removed as a complete assembly from the vehicle by removing the trim strips on the body and the rear cowling and taking off the threaded fasteners. Alternately, for a more refined engine swap, the rear skid assembly has also been designed to separate. The engine, transmission, and V-drive are contained
a bolted subassembly frame that is comprised of the rear curbside corner of the engine skid. By removing 16 fasteners behind the bumper, on the curbside pillar, and above the rear taillights, the rear corner of the engine skid can be drawn out and removed from the vehicle, leaving the rest of the skid in place. This should allow an engine and transmission assembly to be completely separated from the vehicle in 1 to 2 man-hours.